So there is a very good chance Apple just killed your Apple Watch. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91Tech, and at WWDC 26, we saw a bunch of announcements for all of Apple's new software for the next year, including watchOS 27, which will be compatible with the following devices: the Apple Watch SE 3, Apple Watch Series 9, 10, and 11, and then the Apple Watch Ultra 2 and Ultra 3. This means there are a bunch of watches losing support, including the Apple Watch SE 2, the Apple Watch Series 6, 7, and 8, and then even the first generation Apple Watch Ultra. So to be clear, almost half of all supported Apple Watches just lost support with watchOS 27. And given how popular some of these watches were, especially the SE2, this has to be a very significant percentage of Apple's total Apple Watch user base, people who will forever be stuck on Apple watchOS 26. Okay, so originally, Apple's website didn't list the Series 9 as compatible either, but this was apparently a mistake. People are able to install the beta on their Series 9, and Apple's updated their website, so that's good, because that watch came out in 2023, and that would be really bad if it wasn't supported. But this is still pretty darn bad, and it is insane that Apple is killing off 5 generations of watch with one single update, dating back to, 2020, I guess, with the Apple Watch Series 6, up to 2022 with the Series 8 Ultra and SE 2. Now for these devices, I say they're being killed off. It's not as if they'll stop working, and they will probably still get some level of security updates, but if you're on any of these older watches, you can expect no new features ever again, no new watch faces ever again, just nothing new in general ever again, and that kind of sucks. If watchOS 26 is buggy for you or slow, it's gonna be that way forever. So some of you might be wondering, why? Why is this the case? It seems completely out of character for Apple. Heck, with iOS 27, they're actually supporting like the iPhone 11, which is going to be an 8-year-old phone by the time it loses support, assumedly next year. That is crazy, and yet they're killing off watches made only 4 years ago? Why? Well, before we answer that, let's be fair here, right? If you are to lose support on any Apple device, you would probably want it to be your watch. Because it's not as if these things stop working suddenly, they still work, they still do what you want to do, they'll track your activity, etc. Personally, I used the Series 5 Apple Watch for like a year after it lost support, and it was totally fine, just slow and had crappy battery life. But it was still, tracking my activity, showing notifications, etc., just fine. But that being said, it doesn't feel good when you lose support on any device, no matter what it is, because it's basically Apple telling you, hey, that's obsolete now, you should upgrade. We're not going to ever help you out, give you anything new, you're done. Sucks to suck, you should just move on. And especially with something like the 2022 Apple Watch Ultra, which cost a real pretty penny when it came out, it's only going to be 4 years old. I wouldn't blame anyone who feels kind of scammed there. And heck, on Apple's website right now, you can still purchase some of these watches refurbished, even though they won't be getting support later this year, which is kind of crazy. But even if being forever stuck on watchOS 26 won't exactly brick your device, it's still not a great look, right? And so why is Apple doing this? Well, the unfortunate answer likely comes down to the AI stuff, Siri AI in particular, which likely requires more power than these older watches are capable of providing. Now, personally, my inclination would be like, okay, well, let's just not have any of the new Siri stuff on the older watches then. That would be fine. But I think Apple's trying to make it a core part of the experience, and in this case would unfortunately rather just retire those older watches altogether. The Series 6, 7, and 8 all realistically share similar levels of power. Not a lot changed in those years, and so we're kind of seeing the ramifications of that now. And that extends to the Ultra 1 and the SE2 as well. In the very least, hopefully these older watches will never truly feel too slow. If watchOS 26 feels okay to you right now, then, at least it won't ever get any slower. Sometimes new updates can really bloat things, bog things down, and that shouldn't be the case here. But this is all pretty ridiculous and completely unprecedented for modern Apple to do. So what are you actually missing here with watchOS 27? Is it just Siri AI and everything that comes with that? Well, that does seem to be the brunt of it, but there's a little bit more. watchOS 27 brings a new dynamic app grid, which automatically highlights Siri-suggested apps, meaning that the AI element, I guess, is basically built into even just like the home screen of your Apple Watch, which might be part of the reason why they retired all these devices, but I find it hard to believe that you need any sort of powerful AI to just suggest apps that you're likely to use anyways. However, you'll notice that Siri is always there in the middle, Siri app front and center. I can't wait to never tap that on my Series 11, but it's there, and that's clearly what they're trying to push here. Past this, there are some minor refinements and general improvements, but it's not exactly the most dramatic update, at least, especially if you're not too interested in the new Siri AI stuff to begin with. So you don't necessarily need to throw out your old Series 8 quite yet. You're probably going to be just fine for another year or two, assuming your battery is doing okay. Even so, this all still bothers me, clearly, and it sets a worrying precedent for Apple Watches in the future, and all of these updates unsupporting devices that really aren't that old yet. On one hand, you have Apple supporting their phones for 8 years, and then on the other, they're killing off their Apple Watches after 4. It seems ludicrous to me that they would do that. I don't know. And prior to this, every year maybe they would drop support for 1 or 2 generations, nothing too crazy. This is quite the departure from that. I mean, my Series 5 got me what, like 5 years of support? That was pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. Now, where this really stings, and where I think people who are like, big deal, you're not getting updates on a watch, who cares? This is what really bothers me, because it's one thing if you bought the Series 8 4 years ago, or almost 4 years ago, or even the first Apple Watch Ultra, as expensive as it was. But the thing is, the Apple Watch SE 2 was being sold for full price. I don't think they had any price changes with it. Brand new, as recent as fall 2025, when they replaced it with the SE3 and the Apple Watch Series 11 came out. The SE2 originally came out with the Series 8 back in 2022, but Apple sold it for another 3 years. So it's one thing for the Series 8 to lose support, because that Apple Watch hasn't been sold brand new by Apple since the Series 9 came out in 2023. But the SE2, less than a year ago, was still available at full price. And so anybody who bought it, maybe not that long ago, the cheapest Apple Watch, so the one that people are probably most likely to buy in the first place, anybody who bought it just got screwed over pretty hard. Imagine buying any Apple product, I don't care what it is, and losing updates within like a year. That's crazy. And that's what's happening here. And again, it gets worse because Apple is still selling many of these watches on their refurbished section. If you are a little more ignorant to the WWDC and new updates and everything and just bought one of those because it was cheaper, and not even a whole lot cheaper to be fair, well, now you've got a watch that's not going to get any updates in 3 months. Like, that sucks. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say today. Apple just killed off a bunch of Apple Watches and it sucks. I really am not happy with this. I don't think they should have done this. I mean, hot take, right? Guys, supporting old devices is actually good, believe it or not. But at least it's the Apple Watch and not something more critical where you really need new updates. And it is incredibly disappointing, but I guess life moves on. And I apologize to any of you with an older Apple Watch. Hopefully it's still working well for you and you won't feel too obligated to upgrade if you don't need to. So yeah, that's about it for me today. Make sure to leave an F in the comments for all of those on these older Apple Watches, and maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more tech content just like this. I've installed iOS 27 on a few phones, so I'm going to be doing a video on that pretty soon, so stay tuned. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and this is Cola from 91 Tech as well. She does not own an Apple Watch, although we could get you one. But I'm sure she's also very disappointed in Apple if she understood English. And we will see you all next time. Good girl.